Africa's future. We are gathered here to honor Professor Benedict Oramah, whose 32 years of service have transformed Afreximbank into a pillar of African trade and finance, and to welcome Dr. George Elombi, the new president and chairman, who will now carry the torch forward. Over the next 2 days, this venue will bring together heads of states, ministers, diplomats, industry leaders and partners from across Africa and the diaspora, all united to celebrate a legacy that has redefined African trade and integration, all here under the theme Decades of Impact as building blocks for a prosperous future. From financial innovations like the Pan-African payment and settlement systems to the intra-African trade fair, this conference reflects how Afreximbank has redefined Africa's economic landscape. Stay with us as we take you through this day of history, celebration and vision right here from Cairo, the beating heart of continental transformation.
In the battle to restore Africa's dignity. And for 32 years of his career here at Afreximbank, he's worked tirelessly to champion pride, to champion progress, and to champion Pan-African unity. The following film is called Reflections on the 32-year journey of Professor Benedict Oramah, and it celebrates a legacy that has inspired a continent to believe, to build, to boldly reshape its destiny. Enjoy.
Professor Oramah had both, and he moved mountains for Africa. These were testing years for African trade. The old financing playbooks didn't fit African realities, so the bank leaned into structured trade finance, transferring risks intelligently and building products around real needs. Oramah helped shape the toolkit, the dual resource program, country risk guarantees, universal lines of credit, African banking, and Aftrades, solutions designed to turn constraints into workable deals. When Zimbabwe's crisis deepened, the bank didn't look away. With Aftrades, grain import financing, and other instruments, Afreximbank stayed present while many lenders pulled back. It wasn't easy, but it kept lifelines open for governments and corporates where they were hardest to maintain. Under the bank's second president, Oramah served as vice president. He pushed targeted solutions to stubborn bottlenecks. The Africa Cocoa Initiative, Contour for Construction and Tourism, the Health and Medical Tourism Program, and the Intra-African Trade Facilitation Program. Even when a serious health challenge put him in a hospital bed, the work didn't pause. The agenda kept moving. September 2015 brought a turning point. As president now, Oramah approached Africa's development holistically. He framed a clear thesis to reverse engineer root problems, colonial era legacies that had stunted integration, cross-border trade, industrialization, and wealth creation. The immediate headwind was the 2015-2016 commodity slump, but his first strategic act was to inherit an intra-African trade strategy and a dedicated division to execute it. Industrialization and financial resilience were elevated to core mandates. The 2020 renewal of his mandate mid-pandemic signaled confidence in the foundation laid. The focus sharpened, deal with short-term shocks while building long-term capacity, so the next storm would find the continent stronger. not exposed. That thinking crystallized in systems that changed how the continent trades. They were designed to accelerate trade and become engines for economic development. The Intra-African Trade Fair, driving access to trade and market information across the continent. PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, turning fragmented payment rails into a shared pathway. A collaborative transit guarantee scheme, smoothing border crossings under the AFCFTA, and the African Quality Assurance Center, helping African products meet global standards at home, not after export. Industrialization became non-negotiable. With partners like Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms, Afreximbank supports industrial parks that keep value addition on the continent. The goal? To shift the narrative from exporting raw materials to exporting finished ambition. And care for people always sits alongside care for industry. After receiving life-saving treatment at King's College Hospital in London, Oramah championed the African Medical Center of Excellence in Abuja. It's designed to anchor world-class care at home, reduce medical travel, and retain talent. The vision extended beyond geography. Through the Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum and the Global Africa Gateway in New York, the bank built bridges to the diaspora, aligning capital, skills, and solidarity, and uniting over 2 billion Africans worldwide under a single practical idea: Global Africa. By the numbers, this decade tells its own story. Roughly $155 billion were dispersed into African economies. Profits rose from about 100 million to nearly 1 billion. Callable capital scaling more than tenfold from 450 million to 4.5 billion. From vulnerability to resilience. From isolation to integration. From commodity dependence to industrial capability. That, in essence, is the arc. Professor Oramah has achieved so much, but as always, not alone. There's his family, his beloved wife and 3 daughters, and a bank family of colleagues who share the work, the belief, and the commitment to the continent. The foundation is here to stay, built with intent and tested under pressure. Our job is both straightforward and significant: to build on it. With profound gratitude to Professor Benedict Oramah, here's to the vision, the work, and the road ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly a special moment as we welcome the next chapter in Afreximbank's incredible legacy. When other institutions talk about succession planning, right? Afreximbank has turned this into an Olympic sport. They know that it's more than just a bank handing over the keys and making sure that the Wi-Fi works, password works. It's a bank that does succession with real style and real purpose. Afreximbank's leaders don't simply retire. They become legends. The 2 past presidents are some of the secret sauce behind Professor Oramah and his team's success. They're always at the front row, always smiling, always proud, never missing a session, never missing a beat. I'm sure they're here somewhere. They're always here. I've been told they are here. Wherever you are, past presidents, right over here. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a round of applause, please. Now, tomorrow, the mantle passes on to a new president, a man who's climbed every rung at Afreximbank. He's restructured governance, he's shepherded legal affairs, and he's helped mobilize billions of dollars for Africa's development. And you can bet that Professor Oramah will be there for you too, Dr. Elombi, beaming up from the crowd right there behind you. So, Professor, by the way, any real retirement plans you have, please consider them officially cancelled. No, you'll get your time. I saw your wife there go, absolutely not. Now, please, this is where I want you to really, give an African rousing round of applause to the incoming leader of Afreximbank, a deep thinker, a visionary, and a powerful force for Africa's transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, our brother, the president-designate of Afreximbank, Dr. George Elombi.
Mark, I think I'm going to need your very exhaustive protocol list.
Oh, okay.
What do you think about it?
It's a very generic
Well,
one.
thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. Please be seated. Take your seats. Thank you for reminding us that once Afreximbank, always Afreximbank. So we have Mr. Edodu over there. We wish we had Dr. Njai, who he created it on paper and handed to Mr. Edodu, and we have Mr. Ikra over there. We have a large list of our board members here, those who started the organization, the founding fathers, and those who are still serving you on the board. But first, let's thank the Mansa Musa performers. It's a very great story. They have kept this house warm for us. Warm also in the theme. Many of the themes you saw in there would be the subject of most of the discussions you will have here. But I should also thank our leaders who are here seated. Former President Yusufu, who is right here, Muhammadu Yusufu. He has been a champion of Afreximbank. He was a champion. He championed our causes while in office. He continues to do so after office. That's another proof of once struck by the virus of Afreximbank, always Afreximbank. And that's the same for former President Macky Sall, who is also right here in the room. We want to thank them. We want to thank them for making the sacrifice of coming here today. We must also thank former Vice President Sambo, who just came in and who was crowned recently by his own people. And also present here is the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, the African Diplomatic Corps in Egypt, Ambassador Muhammadu Labaran, who has dragged a large number of his African ambassadors down here. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, former ministers, you came today in large numbers, in extremely large numbers, as we can see, to be heard and to listen. To be heard in your own words and to listen to others as they, too, narrate their respective experiences of the impact of Professor Oramah, of his impact on Africa's trade finance. These sessions will be about vision and the actions of an individual who has contributed enormously to our continent. It will be a storytelling. Mansa Musa was about storytelling, and we would have more of that today. In June this year, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria described Professor Oramah as one of the few in the world, the 0.8% who combine vision and execution. For according to Governor Yemi Cardoso, some have vision but lack execution. Others can execute but have little in vision. Oramah, we were lucky, has both, and everyone who spoke in Abuja in June thought so. In 1996, I joined the Afreximbank, so Mark, you're right. It's almost 30 years. Oramah was already here and somewhat marginally older than me. We do have that discussions every now and again to see who is older, but I did have to concede at some point. But his energy, his courage, his tenacity were very evident. He did everything. He was a hustler of a kind, a credit officer, a legal officer. So Mr. Oramah conferred him the title of, he gave him the degree of an inter-LLB. Oramah was also the officer responsible for planning, for the strategic plans for strategy as a whole. He was the president's personal assistant, but also, interestingly, the president's chief advisor. He excelled at every task, and President Oramah just let us flourish. He left us alone. So Oramah, not the cautious type, believed everything was possible. And every now and again, once in a while in a credit committee meeting, President Oramah, President Odoldo would say, Oramah, this is a very bold initiative. Are you sure we would get there? And all of us, we know we would not get there. Oramah alone would believe we would. And mark you, at the end, we get there. His rise to the top was therefore inevitable as the rising sun in the African tropics or in the Sahara Desert. Like me, he had the opportunity of learning from Mr. Edoldo and Mr. Jean-Louis Ekra. By the time Oramah assumed office in 2015, his vision was clear. Building upon the foundations established by his predecessors, he sought to accelerate Africa's trade, to grow it in leaps and bounds, to grow it in scale and depth, by expanding some of the interventions and executing some of the very ideas I and others considered overambitious. This approach helped to tackle the many interconnected challenges that afflict Africa's trade and development. This would come to be known as a portfolio approach. That's how we described it. The combined approach, which did not focus on trade alone, on just the branches of the tree. Oramah thought we had to address the trade infrastructure itself, the roots and the stem. Under his leadership, brick by brick, Afreximbank and its willing partners build a solid foundation for enhancing intra-African trade. Instruments were created in very quick succession to dismantle the obstacles that have hindered Africa's progress for nearly 7 decades. We could not always keep pace. He confronted the challenges of Africa's industrial underdevelopment head-on, building on the work of those who came before us. From a relatively small institution with only $6 billion in assets in 2015, a few years earlier, it was just 105 million, not billion, 105 million. Afreximbank rapidly grew to over 40 billion. We're slightly above 40 billion today, and established itself This growth led to the emergence of strategically important vehicles, offshoots of Afreximbank, the Fund for Export Development in Africa, an investment fund, Afreximshore for insurance, the project preparation facility. We thought that was a very issue. It's probably the only issue I fought hard with Oramah, and I had my way because he wasn't always bent on that, but he did have to concede to me at some point. A concessionary finance window and a highly specialized quaternary healthcare initiative, the African Medical Center of Excellence, so that very soon we begin to reduce in a significant way the levels of medical evacuations. Afreximbank is now one of the key multilateral financial institutions leading Africa's development efforts. It is the financial institution implementing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and transforming the continent's industrial landscape. Oramah has turned the bank into Africa's development supermarket, an institution with a suite of solutions for our challenges to development. He has also turned decades and centuries-old political wishes into tangible gains for all Africans. The Africans in the diaspora can now confidently trace a route back to their ancestral home in Africa and take part in the growing economic opportunities. Those in the continent can also now join our sisters and brothers on the other side of the Atlantic. A few days ago, I told Oramah that each day we discover a new facet, a new face of him. We assume we have fully understood him, but like the Sphinx, he renews himself frequently, quite frequently, sometimes into something else completely. He's therefore a man of numerous facets. Today, you will hear these numerous descriptions of Oramah from the speakers. It is his day, so I wouldn't be too long, for there is much you would wish to hear, Oramah, not from old friends like me, but from those you served. You would hear such phrases as Oramah the generous, Oramah the energetic, the man who enters the 15th meeting of the day at midnight with the same energy as the first meeting we started at 9 a.m. The president who reads documents, all memos, policy documents, intervention documents, and leaves markups everywhere. Those tiny little, very, very insightful comments. Oramah, the man who is everybody's personal example of grace, of humility, of a good father of a family. Even my children know that. They have experienced Oramah as a father of a family. Oramah the compassionate. Oramah the provider of COVID vaccines. The man who gave reality to the dream of the Africans in the diaspora to reunite with their homeland. Oramah, who told us that $5 billion in Dangote was really very little. We had to do it. Didn't look so obvious. But the same Oramah who drinks red wine all night while preparing his statement for the following morning, or the form of a specific country program, some country intervention we had to do somewhere. Any attempt to describe him, to describe Oramah in a few words, will fail, as you will all find out today. I did a long time ago, but for those who haven't, you probably would find out today. Every time you think of Oramah in one form, perhaps 50 speakers would have exhausted you, all with 50 different stories of Oramah. Then 50 new speakers would say 50 new glorious things of him. There will be about 40 testimonies today, so I will hasten to give space to those testimonies. Each would discuss Oramah, an aspect of this proverbial elephant. Everyone sees him in his own way. Some touch and feel and see on the side and say he is like a wall. And those who grab him on another side say he is like the umbrella who protects Afreximbank and shades us. And those who touch by some other perspective of Oramah, as you would see today, would describe him on the legs. He would be described like a wall, a pillar, the pillar that has guarded Afreximbank over the last few years. Like the story of Mansa Musa, or Musa Kieta, the story we just had this morning, he will touch the numerous themes. Oramah's story today will touch the numerous themes affecting our development. The lost but now rediscovered trail, gold trail, the gold trail we saw in the story, the question of trade, of courage, of power, of how to confront the modern world, of the travel of Africans to Mecca and to the Caribbeans. the risks and perils in that travel, but of their return to homeland, of the story of how Mandingo music from Niani, the capital of ancient Mali, now in today's Guinea, northeastern Guinea, how the music of the Mandingo people of that great empire became reggae in Kingston, Jamaica. And Oramah is in love with reggae. That's another side of it, but perhaps someone would give you that story of it, of Bob Marley. I'm sure that many expect me, as one of his closest colleagues of over 30 years, I'm sure many of you in here expect me to help summarize Oramah for you. I long since abandoned that idea. It is a trap. It is perhaps even a foolish man's idea. It might mean that we stay here for not only one day, 1 week, or 1 month. It might mean that we stay here for much longer. And I know the business guys don't want to stay here for too long. I will therefore not fall into that trap. But the organizers of this day, our colleagues who set up this whole show and to whom I should be extremely grateful, they believe that the exercise might well be possible. That is why we gather here today, to tell the story as we just watched and listened to in the Mansa Kieta Musa show. Such was his greatness that the Russians were the first to recognize it all. Perhaps because of their sophisticated satellites. Perhaps because it's always out there that they invest much in knowing who we are. And so His Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, awarded Oramah. He was the very first to award Oramah an honor, the great honor of the friendship of Russia. Then followed the Cameroonians with the Knight of the National Order of Valor. Then the Congolese of Brazzaville made him a high officer of their National Order of Merit. The Republic of Chad made him a commander. And in June this year, Nigeria, his own homeland, crowned it all with the Grand Commander. The Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. Couldn't get higher, but not before Gabon and Guinea-Bissau had, like Chad, also made him a commander. Accolades you have accumulated, Oramah, my brother, but in Afreximbank, that by which we refer to you the most is one conferred by a distinguished group of men and women. They are often described in Nigeria as men and women of timber and caliber. This was around a place called Onitsha. The title he was awarded there in Onitsha is described as Dikora, and that means the great man of the people. But anyone who read Things Fall Apart or Arrow of God, or one of those other books of our great writers, would know that the traditions around Onitsha, in the traditions around Onitsha, the great man is a pseudonym for a great masquerade. No one can pretend to know the masquerade, let alone fully apprehend his ways. The great masquerade may not even know itself and its own story in full. So Dikora Oramah, like the great masquerade, you have told and embodied the story of the clan, of our clan for long, of our African clan for 32 years. sit quietly today and listen to how your own story is told sometimes from perspectives you may well only discover today. So, Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, Benedict Oramah, you are truly the great man of the people, the great masquerade. Your colleagues at Afreximbank and the 2 billion people in global Africa, those across in the continent and outside the continent, they cannot all thank you enough for the selflessness with which you executed your mandate. Like the great masquerade, boldly, fearlessly, having the interest of your continent only in mind, the interest of your African clan, upholding the dignity of the African, of global Africans. You have instilled in us a can-do spirit, the courage to continue challenging the status quo, to challenge the orthodoxy that preaches that nothing good can come out of Africa. As you have always emphasized, it is only through constructive disruption, that Africa can secure a footing on the world stage as we embark on a new chapter for the bank. We aim to build on that strong foundation you have laid and be guided by the values that Dordu, President Ekra, and yourself have instilled. So, my own brother, Dikora, the masquerade of development work, the staff of Afreximbank, very good friends at Afreximbank, have asked that I convey to you the following. Do not be late to the office on Monday morning at 10 a.m. For once Afreximbank, always Afreximbank. They created a catalog of your decade-long journey at the head of the bank. They call it a coffee table book. You and I may not be able to read it because we're now old, but this book symbolizes the unforgettable memory of the transformation you brought to the bank, a gentle reminder to us all of what we can achieve over the next decade. And they say that book must be presented to you. That's the only business I have to do now so that I can free the stage for others to tell your story from their perspective, from their own very special perspective. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to seek to tell you something about Professor Oramah.
Ado, we're inviting President Oramah to come and receive this book. A historic moment, and of course his dear wife Chinelo is here as well. We wouldn't be complete without you. There you go. I said Afreximbank does succession like an Olympic sport. I wasn't kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also going to invite the past president and the first president of Afreximbank to please join us on the stage. President Adordu and President Ekre, please, you're supposed to be here. Give them a round of applause, please, because now you have all four corners of Afreximbank presidency taking to the stage here, showing the legacy of a great institution. A hearty congratulations. An incredible moment. We're going to take a family photo now. So I'm going to arrange all of you back in sequence. If I could ask you to stand, here. And then if you just come over here, ladies in the middle, I think that's nice. And if you could just pull together there, let's look, ladies and gentlemen, the presidents of Afreximbank. Of course, Madame, how can I forget? Please, this would not be complete. In fact, this is a wonderful spot for you to stand, right there. Behind every great man is a great woman. Behind every great woman is a great man. Could I ask now all the spouses to please join us for this photo? All the spouses to join us for the photo. Of course, you know the secret to Afreximbank is the real power is actually the spouses.
What a remarkable day it has been here in Cairo, from sunrise networking to afternoon tributes to the session told the story of a bank that has stood firm through crisis and change. From the very start, we've witnessed a powerful reflection on Afreximbank's 32-year journey, a story of resilience, innovation and purpose. Ministers, economists and former executives revisited how the bank strengthened Africa's capital base, navigated global shocks and pioneered mechanisms such as BATIMFA, the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust, and the counter-cyclical trade liquidity facility, all designed to safeguard Africa's economies through turbulent times. The sessions were also focused on Afreximbank's creative instruments, from infrastructure financing to diaspora initiatives and industrial development programs, demonstrating how African solutions continue to drive African growth. Stay tuned, because up next is the Legacy and Harmony Festival featuring Davido, Julian Marley, Ines B, and more musical tributes to the man who inspired a generation of African transformation. From the bathroom to stage, Africa is celebrating its own story tonight, and what a powerful story it is.